So we're all in college, and I have a question for all of you today. Who has taken out student loans to be able to attend this university? One person. So me personally, I had to take out student loans to attend this university because San Jose likes to drip you of every drop of money, and they like to take everything that's nice. But what I'm going to get into is what we all want to be is successful one day. We all want to have a house. We all want to have a good paying job. We all want to live in that fancy neighborhood that's gated so no one can get in. But what is awfully wrong is that we'll have to pay back these debts in student loans before we're able to eventually get up to that house. But what I want to persuade you guys into knowing is that social inequality is something that we could end, and because of that, there's 3 things that we could do that will help make it go away. And what is that is raising the minimum wage, reforming the tax system, and ending residential segregation. So Stephen Meeting of the Haas Institute for Fair Inclusive Society says income inequality is not inevitable. That means the people of the United States can change it by the way they vote and by the way we change the government. And Justin Stein, who also works with Medium, says raising the minimum wage would help about 100 million people. So we all know there's about 1 billion single mothers living, having to fend for their own children, having to work 2 jobs, and basically are never home. So what this raising the minimum wage would do is help them bring in more money into their family, which will let them take less hours off of that second job to be able to be home and tend to their children, and also to get other things like supplies and necessities to pay for bills and food and stuff. And because of the debt that we that college students have, affordable house costs and fewer well-paying jobs will come, because it's kind of hard to have a job while still paying off debts, while paying off taxes, while trying to sustain life. So it's kind of hard to pay bills, buy your own food, have to pay back this debt, and then pay the government for the taxes that we pay. So it's all just a bunch of money out of your paycheck. So what also we could do is raising the minimum wage. And what this would do is would help basically the minimum wage in California was just raised recently from, I think it was $10 to I think 11 or 12.50, something like that. But it's at least it's something that will eventually grow into something more later in the future. What we can also do is reform the tax code and income tax. So based on income, we should see how much this person should be taken out of their out of their paycheck to go into taxes. So we can't just tax people out the ass, just whatever the government wants to take, because they still have to sustain life, they still have to buy food, they still have to pay their bills. And economic inequality could also be solved by stopping residential segregation. And what this means is, for me, I grew up in a neighborhood that was mainly a Jewish neighborhood, so basically a good neighborhood, safe neighborhood. And what I noticed is there's not a lot of black people here. There's not a lot of people of my color here. It's just a bunch of Jewish people. So what this does is this segregates people from how much money they have. The black communities most of the time are in a poor neighborhood, like the forgot the word for it, but other groups are probably segregated into lower income neighborhoods, while you see all these other neighborhoods like the Jewish neighborhood I live in, because my parents were actually they got a loan some money from something. I don't want to get too deeply into it, but we're lucky enough to be raised in a Jewish neighborhood, while all these other people are struggling in these low income communities. But what we could do is end this segregation and bring all these people together. So what this would do is it would stop the segregation from, oh, you live in this type of neighborhood, so we can't really have this type of communication or connection. Because you'll see the higher classes go to these private schools like Brentwood and all these other schools, while these low income families have to go to the public schools that aren't really good for education, not really good for extracurriculars. So it's basically setting you up for failure, while these other classes are set up to be something in the future. So basically, in conclusion, part of this so-called American dream is the belief that opportunity is available to all, regardless of where you start, or even if it's out of poverty or with nothing. Extreme concentrations of income and wealth threaten our democracy of these principles of equal opportunity. But income inequality is not inevitable, as there are changes such as tax reform, raising the minimum wage, and ensuring affordable housing that can make everybody come together. Thank you.